This is a presentation by Jeremy Allen called Learning to Lead. My professor is Missy Gish, or Gish, sure. Course LDR 101, 2025. For my presentation, I've decided that I want to kind of go through my journey. And I start with my start of my IT career. This is a screenshot of a file that I was working on during a sys administration class at Gateway, Kentucky's community technical college system, Northern Kentucky's, that is. While here, I learned kind of the ins and outs of systems administration. Everything was from a Microsoft perspective, but the main thing that I took away from school was a foundation for troubleshooting. I kind of dove in and learned how to figure out exactly what the problem was, what the issue is, and then how to resolve that issue. The leadership of my class, his name was Deep, short for Dipanishantara Ramanayaki. He's now a professor at Xavier, and I talk to him quite regularly about my career progress. And this is where it all started, was in um, a shell script. And then from school, actually, while I was in school, I worked for a company called Pomeroy, kind of laying the foundation of that troubleshooting and figuring out how to fix things and solve problems, trying to figure out how to go in and find a solution to an answer or to a question that someone had in regards to a device. This was point of sale printers, cash drawers, keyboards, servers, and then computers. Go in, take them apart, check for physical issues as well as checking for any software updates or things of that nature. At Pomeroy, I really learned how to work with a team, how to be able to go to other individuals for conflict resolution with the device that I was working on. And my leadership there was very good at training and teaching and, allowing me to have the autonomy that I needed to complete the job at hand. Now, while I was at Pomeroy, I had a job opportunity to go to a company called Primevo. This was my first foray into Google. While at Primevo, I, um, I learned the ins and out of the Google Admin Console, Google Workspace, Chrome OS, and managing these platforms and systems. But we provided support for customers who bought from Primevo. They bought Google tools from Primevo, as well as their proprietary tool called gPanel. Now, the company Primevo, um, the building, the previous slide. This was my very first day of onboarding, a device that they gave me for onboarding. And, um, I started there as a tier one tech support engineer. I had no clue what any of those tools that I just mentioned were. I didn't know. I never accessed them. I didn't know anything about them. I didn't know. And, I wasn't a rock star right from the get go per se. But I have had a family, as do I now. I had a desire to work and learn and make something better of myself. And so while at Primevo, a very short amount of time, less than 6 months, I actually was escalated to tier two, where I was doing troubleshooting for higher level customers and support issues. And then from there, I took a position leading the support team. And so part of that role was training all new hires and getting new employees at the company set up. And so, while there, I learned that not everybody's at the same level. Not everybody learns at the same speed. Some are faster, some are slower, and they learn in different ways. And so I was able to get creative with my training modules and how I taught people to onboard and to learn the platforms and systems. This was invaluable for me because this really honed my troubleshooting craft per se and my cadence with customers for support issues and from a customer satisfaction perspective. And so that's kind of a passion of mine. And so um, when I stepped into that leadership role, I was able to actually translate those skills to interpersonal and inter employee communication so that I could talk to people who were either below or above my level and then, navigate those conversations, questions, and even issues professionally, and then come to a cohesive resolution. My time at Promevo was invaluable to my career. But they say all good things must come to an end. And that actually, to be quite honest, leadership at Promevo, as good as the owner was at honing myself into what I feel like I was able to become, he was not a very good leader per se. It was very toxic. And so that actually led me to start looking for other employee. And during this time, I had a recruiter reach out to me about a position at Cincinnati Public Schools. And that position was essentially transitioning from reseller support to um, managing an active admin console. And so I was the systems administrator and Google engineer for Cincinnati Public Schools. It was a very large environment. No one else managed it. This was a pretty cool environment. This was my desktop. These were things my kids and my wife had given me. Actually, that mouse, I still have it. Um, but while here, I went from being, team lead back to being another hog on the gear wheel per se. Um, there was some, I won't say leadership. However, um, I was able to make that transition and remember what it was like not being in charge and try to do that gracefully. And then I also was able to lead their support team and train them on Google support issues and when and how to escalate accordingly and appropriately to me. I was there for about a year and a half through most of COVID. I did also some contract work for them remotely. Um, but alas, when COVID ended, I they wanted to go back into office. I did not want to go back into office, and so I took a position with a company called Combined Public Communications (CPC), and they were basically telecommunications for county jails. And so we put video conferencing systems and telephones and tablets into county jails. That was what the whole company was based off of, was telecommunications for jails. And so my role there was purchasing manager, and so I managed all of our purchasing, all of our um, any buying that we did. I managed it. I ran an ERP system called Acumatica, and I fell under the leadership of the CFO. I reported directly to the CFO as well as um, he didn't really have a title, but he was a director of engineering. And so while there, this was just a silly thing that made its rounds in the warehouse one day. But in addition to that, I was in charge of configuring all servers for what was called commissary. So all of the commissary that inmates would purchase, we had a platform that we would use to put on a system, and it would load in, it would keep track of their purchases, it would keep track of how much money they had on their books, things of that nature, and I had to configure those servers. So this was an interesting role because it blended management with, in essence, being a warehouse worker and a systems configurations engineer. And so, what was interesting about this was I didn't necessarily have people under me working for me. However, the entire company would have to come to me for requests for requisitions and purchases. So it was very interesting, and to say the least. But I was never very happy because I'm not a fan of Microsoft. I'll be honest with you. I hate that I'm having to use Zoom for this. This was just the easiest thing for me to do. But I don't like Microsoft Outlook, different things of that nature. I'm a Google guy through and through. So from there, I went back to the clouds. Google, that's where my heart is. That's where professionally I love to be. And I joined a company called Cloud Bakers. Cloud Bakers actually became a company called 66 Degrees. And I don't think I've got that in the slides. I may have forgotten, but Cloud Bakers was a Google Premier partner. Basically the same thing as Promevo. I was on the support desk. They didn't have tiers. We just all handled it and managed it. And when I was hired on, it was under the auspice of, you know, transitioning to a leadership role. And so, um, come find out there was an individual that had been there for several years, and he was very underpaid, very underutilized, very under, um, undermanaged, honestly. And so when it came time for leadership, he kind of threw a fit and threatened to leave, and they didn't want to lose an employee that had been there for so long. So they gave him a raise and transitioned him to leadership, and which was fine. I didn't mind it. He was a good guy. I just, it just wasn't for me any longer. And so, on the bigger and better, I joined a very large company called SHI. And so, honestly, I wasn't looking for a position when this one found me. A recruiter actually reached out to me on LinkedIn. This is actually in front of the Rutger Field at Rutgers. SHI is based out of New Jersey, and um, they sponsor the stadium, and so SHI Stadium is where they do a lot of things for um, marketing and reach outreach and customer events and things like that. This is actually a outward facing customer event. This was a concert and just thing on the field in the stadium. Um, but I took the role as a solutions architect because it was different than anything I had ever done. It would open up my experience and it would allow me to expand my knowledge base and hopefully my um, my my network, which is for me, one of the biggest things that there is my network is probably one of the most important things in my career. My reputation is right there with it. I have a stellar reputation at Google and with Googlers and in the ecosystem partners, across North America, recognize things that I've done and, contributions I've made. And um, SHI was a stepping stone to get me there. I'm actually still full time at SHI. It's a day job. Um, Currently, I'm leading the Google Services department where we're building out services and customer satisfaction ratings for all of our Google customers. So it's pretty sweet. But all of this leads me to where I am focusing now. This is my passion. This is my company, Queen City Cloud Consulting, and I started this company. Our goal is to be a Google Workspace and Chrome OS services provider and reseller. So we are a Google partner, and I not only do I own, but I manage a team of about five. Um, and I've learned while being here, I've taken all of the experiences that I've had since 2017, and I've translated them into this. But even still, with all of that experience and all of those good things, I've learned that when you're doing something of this nature, not everybody is going to approach it with the same level of passion that you have. My sales engineer, he's actually slated to be our CSO. Um, that's the plan, the long term plan. But he works a day job as well, and this is a lot of investment and a lot of um, looking forward and looking ahead. We have a customer, we have events planned, we have a lot of big things happening. Um, right now, it's a labor of love. I've got a project manager who is all in. He does a day job, but he does this in any amount of spare time that he has, even to the point of investing time and finances. And this other individual, he's got a family just like we all do. Um, his day job and his family take number one precedence, and that's how it should be. But even in free time, when maybe he could devote a little more time, he doesn't. And complacency is a real thing. But I've also learned that when leading people, you have to take into account that their passions are not the same as your passions. Um, you have to lead with grace, and that's what I've really come full circle on. Is my first experience as a manager with Remivo. I could follow that CEO's lead and lead with an iron fist and just not be uh, ever happy and not be well with my employees, but I don't want to do that. I want to understand. And so, I'm at a place in my career and I'm building this business where all of my spare time, all of my spare finances are going and pouring into this. And, we're going to build great things. And so, my sales engineer, I understand that he has priorities. And so, I work with him and try to make him um, be more well-rounded in the role and try to help him open up times and different things and levels of understanding so that he can devote time that he needs to learning the platforms and the system. That's really what it's all about. Leadership is about people. And it's about, getting your people and understanding your people and making sure that your people are happy. And so that's my full circle moment. When I first started in any sort of leadership, it was like, hey, I'm in charge, my way or the highway, my way goes. Really, that's not leadership. Leadership is being open. being honest and working together. Because without good people, you can lead all you want to, but they're never going to follow you. That is my presentation. Thank you.